In the brightly lit studio of Good Morning America, the air crackled with anticipation as George Stephanopoulos, the seasoned anchor with a reputation for incisive questioning, prepared to interview Karoline Leavitt, the young and fiery White House press secretary known for her unwavering defense of the Trump administration. The segment was billed as a routine political discussion, but from the moment Leavitt stepped onto the set, her confidence tried and piercing gaze signaled that this would be anything but ordinary. Stephanopoulos, with his decades of journalistic experience and a history of navigating high-stakes interviews, opened with a seemingly innocuous question about the administration's latest policy on federal workers returning to in-office work. Leavitt, poised and ready, launched into a passionate defense, citing the need for accountability and productivity, her voice steady but charged with conviction. "The American taxpayers deserve a government that shows up for them," she declared, her words slicing through the studio's polished atmosphere. Stephanopoulos, unfazed, leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly as he countered with a pointed question about the potential loss of experienced professionals, like doctors and scientists, who might resign rather than comply. The tension was palpable, as Leavitt's smile tightened, and she fired back, "Most doctors work in hospitals, George, not Zoom calls." Productivity isn't a suggestion, it's a requirement. The audience, both in the studio and at home, could sense the brewing storm, as social media began to buzz with clips of the exchange, hashtags like #Backlash trending within minutes. Leavitt's supporters praised her for standing her ground, while critics accused her of dodging the question. Stephanopoulos, ever the professional, pressed further, his tone calm but unrelenting, asking whether the policy risked undermining public trust in government institutions. Leavitt didn't hesitate, accusing the media ABC included of perpetuating distrust by framing every policy through a biased lens. The back and forth escalated, each question and response sharper than the last, as the studio crew exchanged glances, knowing they were witnessing a moment that would dominate headlines. By the time the segment cut to commercial, the internet was ablaze, with users on X posting memes of Leavitt as a granite gladiator and others calling Stephanopoulos the silent assassin for his measured but cutting delivery. The clash, though brief, was a masterclass in political theater, with both figures refusing to yield, their words echoing long after the cameras stopped rolling. This wasn't just a debate, it was a cultural flashpoint, a collision of ideology, media, and personality that would fuel discussions for days. Viewers were left stunned, some cheering for Leavitt's boldness, others marveling at Stephanopoulos' ability to maintain control while landing precise blows. The viral nature of the moment was undeniable, as clips racked up millions of views, and pundits scrambled to analyze every gesture, every pause, every word. As the viral moment spread across platforms, the narrative of the Stephanopoulos-Leavitt showdown took on a life of its own, with each side claiming victory in a battle that was as much about optics as it was about policy. Leavitt's team wasted no time capitalizing on the moment, with the press secretary herself taking to X to post, "The truth makes people uncomfortable, that's not my problem." #Granite Gladiator, a nod to the nickname bestowed by her supporters. The phrase caught fire, with conservative outlets hailing her as a fearless voice who stood up to the mainstream media elite. Merchandise with Granite Gladiator slogans appeared almost overnight, from t-shirts to coffee mugs, as her base rallied around her unapologetic stance. Meanwhile, Stephanopoulos' calm demeanor and pointed questions earned him praise from those who saw him as exposing Leavitt's rhetorical weaknesses. Liberal commentators argued that his refusal to raise his voice or lose composure made Leavitt's responses seem overly defensive, with one X post reading, "George didn't clap back, he just let her talk herself into a corner." The debate over who won the exchange became a microcosm of the broader political divide, with each side interpreting the same moment through their own ideological lens. Behind the scenes, ABC producers reportedly held emergency meetings, concerned about the segment's unintended escalation and its potential to fuel accusations of bias. Leavitt, undeterred, doubled down in subsequent interviews, framing the clash as evidence of the media's disconnect from everyday Americans. The policy itself, requiring federal workers to return to the officio, became almost secondary to the spectacle, as the public fixated on the personalities involved. Leavitt's youth and relative inexperience were juxtaposed against Stephanopoulos' seasoned gravitas, creating a narrative of David versus Goliath. Though opinions differed on who played which role, social media platforms became battlegrounds, with #backlash posts amassing millions of interactions, from memes mocking Leavitt's brief pause after a tough question to others celebrating her for taking on the establishment. The viral moment even spilled into late-night shows, with hosts replaying the exchange in slow motion, dissecting Stephanopoulos' subtle smirk and Leavitt's steely glare. What made the clash so compelling wasn't just the policy debate but the underlying tension between two worlds: the traditional media, represented by Stephanopoulos, and the new wave of combative conservative voices, embodied by Leavitt. This wasn't just a TV segment, it was a cultural referendum on trust, power, and who gets to shape the narrative in a polarized America. The aftermath of the GMA clash revealed the deeper currents driving its viral spread, as both Leavitt and Stephanopoulos became symbols in a larger battle over media influence and political authenticity. Leavitt's performance, while polarizing, cemented her status as a rising star in conservative circles, with supporters praising her for refusing to be cowed by a veteran like Stephanopoulos. Her ability to pivot from defense to offense, accusing the media of manufacturing distrust, resonated with those who felt alienated by traditional news outlets. On X, posts with millions of views lauded her as a stone-cold killer, with one user writing, "Karoline Leavitt just took another soul on live TV. She's the fake news Grim Reaper." This rhetoric, while hyperbolic, underscored the emotional weight of the moment for her base, who saw her as a warrior against a perceived liberal media machine. Conversely, Stephanopoulos' supporters argued that his restraint was his strength, allowing Leavitt's arguments to unravel under scrutiny. "He didn't need to yell, he just asked the right questions," one tweet read, garnering thousands of likes. The exchange also sparked a broader conversation about the role of journalists in an era of declining trust, with some accusing Stephanopoulos of bias due to his past as a Clinton aide, while others defended him as a professional holding power to account. The viral nature of the clash was amplified by its timing, coming at a moment when public frustration with both government and media was at a fever pitch. Leavitt's defense of the return-to-office policy tapped into a populist sentiment that government workers should be held to the same standards as private sector employees, while Stephanopoulos' questions reflected concerns about institutional stability and expertise. The debate wasn't just about policy, it was about who gets to define the people and what they deserve. Clips of the exchange were dissected on podcasts, blogs, and TikTok, with creators adding their own spin, from dramatic music overlays to satirical dubs. The moment's staying power lay in its ambiguity. Neither side delivered a knockout blow, leaving room for endless interpretation. Leavitt's team leaned into the chaos, encouraging the Granite Gladiator narrative, while ABC tried to steer the conversation back to policy substance, though with little success. The clash became a case study in how modern media moments are shaped not just by what happens on air but by the digital echo chamber that follows, where every pause, glance, and word is weaponized. Long after the cameras stopped rolling, the Stephanopoulos-Leavitt showdown continued to reverberate, shaping perceptions of both figures and the institutions they represented. For Leavitt, the clash was a defining moment, elevating her from a relatively unknown press secretary to a conservative icon whose name became synonymous with defiance. Her supporters saw her as a fresh voice, unafraid to challenge the media's gatekeepers, while critics argued she relied on talking points rather than substance. Her pause under Stephanopoulos' questioning revealing a lack of depth. The Granite Gladiator nickname, while initially a badge of honor, also became a point of mockery for those who saw her as overmatched. Stephanopoulos, meanwhile, emerged as a study in contrasts. His calm, almost surgical approach won admiration from those who valued journalistic precision, but others saw it as smugness, a relic of an outdated media establishment. The clash also highlighted the evolving dynamics of political discourse, where television interviews are no longer self-contained events but launching pads for viral content and cultural debates. The policy discussion at the heart of the segment of federal workers returning to the officia was overshadowed by the personalities and the spectacle. a reflection of how modern media prioritizes drama over substance. On X, the conversation continued to evolve, with new hashtags like #Leavitt vs Stephanopoulos and #media bias gaining traction, while late-night hosts and influencers kept the moment alive with skits and commentary. The viral clips, viewed millions of times, became a Rorschach test for viewers, each seeing what they wanted to see: a conservative hero standing up to the elite, or a seasoned journalist exposing an unprepared spokesperson. The moment's legacy was its ability to encapsulate the current state of American discourse: fractured, passionate, and endlessly debated. For Leavitt, it was a baptism by fire, proving she could hold her own on a national stage, even if the cost was a polarized reception. For Stephanopoulos, it was another chapter in a long career of navigating political storms, his restraint a reminder that sometimes the quietest voice in the room carries the most weight. As the dust settled, one thing was clear: the GMA clash wasn't just a fleeting TV memento, it was a snapshot of a divided nation, where every word, every pause, and every stare could ignite a firestorm.